faces on this sunny evening. We will introduce the candidates a bit later, so we have, let's see, there are no new people here, are there? Are there any new people? Visitors? Mm-hmm. Right, that's what I mean, not people speaking, but visitors. Are you a visitor?
I'm a visitor.
Okay, stand up and tell us your name.
Hi, I'm Kristen Bozeman. I'm actually John's daughter, but I'm not speaking tonight. Hannah is, because I'm a horrible public speaker. But I'm happy to talk to everyone here and just thank you guys for having us.
Thank you. Are you a visitor?
Yes.
Okay, if you'll stand up and tell us your name, please. If you can, it's all right.
Yes, I can. I'm Karen Abrahamson. I'm from Siloam-Springs.
Here.
I work as a children's mental health therapist.
We're so glad to have you. Thank you. Are there any other visitors? Okay. I know we have Gayla Hendren McKenzie here, who's a candidate. You want to stand up and tell what you're running for?
Sure, I'm the state rep right now for the Bella Vista, Gravette, surrounding areas, and I'm running for state senate, District 35, and that runs all the way from Missouri border, Siloam-Springs, and on down to Fayetteville, Farmington.
Are there any other candidates besides the one speaking tonight? Okay. All right. Then we will have the prayer. Helen, if you'll come forward, please. Let's pray.
Our living Lord Jesus, how we do praise you and thank you for this night and each of us here, Lord. You are the true and living God. You are above all else. We need your wisdom. We need your help as we consider our people running for office. Lord, please just guide us and guide them. And we all know that we are accountable to you. So we thank you for this time and ask your blessings in Jesus' name.
Thank you. And then Kathy, if you come forward and lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Now we come to the most exciting part of the meeting. This is a time when we have a prize question. Okay? So everybody ready? And you may not look on your phone. All right. So, who is the father of American geography? The father of American geography. Who is that?
Thomas Jefferson. No. George
No.
Washington.
Who?
George Washington. No, it's George Washington. It's George Washington.
No, not George Washington. What did she, who said it?
Thomas Jefferson.
It's Jedediah Morris. Morse, M-O-R-S-E. Yes, that's exactly right. All right. Wow. And how did you know that? I read your newsletter. You read the newsletter.
Uh-oh.
All right, come on, get your prize. I'm tired of going up and down the stairs. I read it too. Isn't this beautiful? It's a beautiful elephant. Gorgeous flowers.
That is so cute.
All right. A lot of good guesses in that. All right. Now I'm going to ask Christy to come up and introduce our speakers for tonight.
Okay, we have 3 speakers. First, this is the order that you'll come up. Hannah Henderson is going to be speaking on behalf of John Bozeman. Senator Bozeman, who's rerunning again for U.S. Senate. And then we have two lieutenant governor candidates. Greg Bledsoe will come up next, and then we'll end with Doyle Webb.
I didn't see him come in.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's a mic right here on the stand. Okay.
Okay, so Hannah, come on up.
Their microphone is right there.
Yeah, right up here on the stand.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I work for Senator John Bozeman, and it's an honor to be here with all of you. I know he wishes he could be here personally, but as you know, he covers the entire state, and unfortunately, he had already committed to another event this evening. So you get me, the next best thing, I guess. I have a letter to read on his behalf. So, my fellow Arkansans, as we enter the crew of yet another crucial election season, it is a good time to look at where we are, where we have been, and where we are going. Joe Biden and his fellow liberal policies have ushered in crushing inflation, an energy crisis, record high gas prices, a shortage of just about everything, including labor, and calling the Biden administration's policies of allowing the use of arrest warrants as a means of identification for illegal immigrants a border crisis, putting it mildly. Where were we before this? Under President Trump and with the Republican control of Congress, we were able to implement our ideas on how to move our nation forward. These policies resulted in record low gas prices, record high unemployment, record high stock market and retirement accounts. We began construction on a border wall, and as chairman of the Military and Construction Committee, I worked closely with President Trump to secure the funding for this wall. Historic tax reform, the new trade agreement like the USMCA, phase 1 of the China trade deal, and even a new accord with Japan, which has a meaningful impact on Arkansas. We also rolled back regulations like the waters of the U.S., which impacts Arkansas farmers. And did you notice when we had a strong leadership in the White House, bad actors like Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin were mostly quiet? Where are we going? A red wave is coming. We have a good chance of taking back the House and the Senate this election cycle. Americans have witnessed the disastrous results of the liberal agenda, and when given the choice, our conservatives' idea will win. With control of committees, we can get back to work that produce meaningful results under Republican leadership and begin to roll back the disastrous liberal agenda. We can get back to energy independence so we are not relying on countries like Russia, who are not our friends, for our energy needs. We can rid Americans of this open border policy and get back to securing our southern border and implementing the rule of law. Joe Biden just proclaimed that food shortages are going to be real. Every 5 years, Congress passes a farm bill. We have one coming up in 2023, and when I am reelected, I will be chairman of the Agricultural Committee. This provides Arkansas a seat at the head of the table as our nation's farm policy is created and implemented into law for the next half decade. You can be sure that Arkansas and Siloam-Springs farmers will be well represented as these important policies are formed to ensure America's food security. I am a strong conservative who works tirelessly for Arkansas and has a proven track record of delivering results that benefit our state. My team and I cut through red tape and make sure that Arkansans get answers from the federal government. We're highly active and persistent, and we often get outcomes that make tremendous differences in the lives of real people. Once reelected, I will continue to protect Arkansans against the constant efforts that diminish our true beliefs and undermine our God-given rights by the radical left, big government, and woke companies. Additionally, I know that the veteran community in Arkansas is a true treasure, but especially in Siloam-Springs. I have led veteran initiatives that prioritize the care and benefits our former service members deserve, including improved mental health and suicide prevention, and also better access for women's health care. I have also supported law enforcement by providing resources they need and pushing back against the defunding the police. This election is one of the most important races in Arkansas. Seniority and integrity matter. I am not engaged in the fake news that is being spread today. After serving several years in the House and 2 terms in the Senate, I have a solid conservative record that Arkansans have at the access of their fingertips. My conservative voting record has allowed me to receive an incredible honor of being endorsed by the Arkansas and National Right to Life. I am a pro-life champion. I will always keep it a top priority to fight for the unborn. My conservative record has also been endorsed by President Trump, as well as our next governor, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and the NRA and United States Senator Tom Cotton. Thank you, Siloam-Springs women, for your continued support. Kathy and I look forward to visiting with you soon. God bless you, and God bless these United States of America. Thank you. And feel free to ask me questions at the end. Are we gonna have an opportunity for questions?
After everyone speaks.
Okay, thank you.
My turn? Hey everybody, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I really appreciate being here in Siloam-Springs. I grew up in Rogers and played basketball for Shiloh, so we played you guys every year, and we usually lost, so I'm not going to hold that against anyone. And I appreciate Christy giving me another extra hour to speak. She said I have over an hour time, so that's really great. I want to introduce my youngest daughter, Emery. Emery, wave your hand here. Hold up one of those bumper stickers, sweetie. So we've got bumper stickers and literature if y'all want them. I can't prove this, but I've been told by multiple people that those bumper stickers raise the value of pickup trucks. So if you have a pickup truck and you want to raise the value, you can put one of those on there. So I'm Greg Bledsoe. I'm a physician, not a politician. I grew up in Rogers, Arkansas, so this is my home area. And what I want you guys to know about me is that I'm a Christian, first and foremost. I'm also pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-entrepreneur, pro-law enforcement, pro-small business, pro-low taxes, anti-mandate, and anti-Marxist. And the fact of the matter is that we live in a country now that you have to say you're anti-Marxist or people don't know, because you've got Marxists running for office across the country. It's unbelievable. But I grew up in Rogers. I ended up going into healthcare. I did med school and residency down at UAMS in Little Rock. Spent 7 years there, and then I wanted to do global health because I had gone on some medical missions trips. So I moved to Baltimore, finished my training there. They asked me to stay on faculty there at Johns Hopkins, and then they sent me all over the world. So I've been to almost 60 countries. I was on the advance team for George W. Bush in 2003 as the physician that took care of the Secret Service agents when he went to Africa. And then in 2002, I was former President Clinton's private physician, personal physician, when he toured Africa in 2002, which was an interesting experience for a Republican, to say the least. And then I met my wife when I was there. She was a public school teacher. And when she was 6 months pregnant, we were hired by the University of Pittsburgh on a consulting contract to go to the country of Qatar in the Middle East. So when she was 6 months pregnant, we moved to the Middle East at the height of the Iraq War. And not something I would recommend, but we went over there for 14 months, and I taught emergency medicine. Our first daughter was born in the country of Qatar. But I always like to tell people a couple of stories. One of the stories is that I was working there in the emergency department in Qatar, and I was taking care of a young Arab woman. She was there with her husband, a young Arab man. They were dressed in traditional garb, and it was the height of the Iraq War. And I was always nervous about people knowing that I was American for obvious reasons. And as I started to speak, this young man sat up and he said, "You're American." And I said, "Well, yes, I'm American." And he said, "Where are you from in America?" And I said, "Well, you probably don't know. It's a small state, kind of in the South, Arkansas." And when I said Arkansas, this young man got up, walked around into the bed, grabbed me by the shoulders, and he said, "Arkansas? I graduated from Arkansas State." That's a true story. And this young man loved the United States of America because of the hospitality and the kindness he had been shown during his time at Arkansas State. And he was actually from one of the most prominent and wealthy and influential families in the country of Qatar. He invited me to his house. We ended up going multiple times to his house, multiple Lamborghinis and Rolls Royces on his driveway. Very influential young man, very wealthy, but loved the United States because of the contact he'd had with the people of Arkansas. And that made me really proud. So worked over there for a little over a year, came back, started a medical education company. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, starting a small business. And so I have a tremendous respect for small business people and entrepreneurs. And then in 2015 was appointed Surgeon General, something I never expected, but it got me back in Little Rock and working with a lot of friends and colleagues from the past. So it's been an incredible experience. So the Surgeon General position, what I always tell people about that position is it's part-time. I'm required to have a private sector job. I don't get health care benefits or retirement benefits from the state. I get paid a salary based on, for my time, which is the same salary my predecessor got, and it's the same salary that the legislature sets every year. They vote on it. I don't have anything to do with it. But we talk about a lot of issues as Surgeon General, and of course the big issue that everyone's been talking about recently, of course, is COVID. Y'all heard of that, huh? And so everyone always asks me questions about COVID, and what I tell people is that, you know, first of all, I was against the lockdowns, I was against the mandates, and if you think that's just a political thing, you can go and Google when you get home tonight, or go on your phone, Google Arkansas health officials differed, and you'll come up with an article from October of 2020, 6 months into the pandemic. It was based on emails and texts that went around the health department 2 months into the pandemic, where I was beginning to push back and say, look, you know, we got to take COVID seriously, it's real, but at the same time, shutting down our business and our churches and our gyms and our restaurants and all the rest doesn't make any sense at all. And I got in trouble for it, and the reporters FOIA'd our emails, and that became an article. So 2 months in, I was already saying this is a bad idea, and 6 months later, the article came out in the Democrat Gazette. So that's point number one. But the biggest point, what I always like to tell people is, down in Little Rock, they say, you know, Greg, what's the most important thing to learn from COVID? And I always say the most important thing from COVID is that Donald Trump was right. Donald Trump was right. And people down in Little Rock go, oh, how can you say that? You know, Donald Trump was right. And I tell them, don't think about 2020. Think about 2016 and 15 and 14 when he was running for office. What did Donald Trump say? Before any other candidate of either party said this, Donald Trump said, we need to have secure borders, and we need to bring manufacturing back from overseas. Y'all remember him saying this? He said this way before anyone else. And if there's anything that COVID has taught us, what did it teach us? We need secure borders, and we need to bring our manufacturing back from overseas. We don't need foreign countries making our medical equipment and our antibiotics and all the essential things that we need to run our country. And so, you know, people down in Little Rock further question me, and some of them are health experts. See my air quotes. And they come up to me and they say, well, Greg, why aren't conservative red state voters listening to the health experts? And a lot of times this is health experts from outside the state. And I tell them, if the health experts like the American Medical Association want conservative red state voters to start listening to them again about COVID and anything else, they need to do a better job of telling the difference between little boys and little girls. Right? It's not that hard. So I went to medical school, but I didn't need to go to medical school to learn that. And what's happened is that conservative red state voters have learned not to trust the healthcare establishment because they can't even figure out the basic things, the differences between boys and girls, in addition to, you know, being for abortion all 9 months of pregnancy and all the rest. So I tell people, if conservative red state voters, before they're going to start listening to the healthcare experts like the medical associations need to do a better job of telling truth and not politics. And along with that line, when we talk about those issues, obviously that's a pretty controversial issue. We had a couple bills in the last session. One was to keep trans men from competing against girls in sports, which obviously we shouldn't be having that happen. Another was for sex change surgeries, and obviously we should be doing sex change surgeries on children in the state of Arkansas, for Pete's sake. And then the last one was this medical conscience bill, which said if you're a healthcare professional and you have a problem with doing sex change surgeries or anything else, you can opt out, use your conscience and opt out. So the sponsors of those bills, or that bill, came to me and they said, would you testify on behalf of this bill in committee? And I looked at the bill and I thought it was a great bill, and I said I would testify, and then I showed the bill to some of my conservative Christian colleagues who are physicians. And I said, what do y'all think of this? And they all said it was a great bill. But they also said, be careful testifying, because if you testify, you're going to become a target. And the radical left is vicious, and they're ruthless. And you're the Surgeon General and you're a practicing physician. If you testify for that bill, they're going to come after you and they're going to try to destroy you. But sometimes you got to do the right thing, and you got to do the right thing publicly. And so the right thing for that bill was for me to testify on behalf of it. And I went down, I testified, and thankfully we got that bill passed. But it was really interesting. After my testimony, 10 seconds, this is not an exaggeration, 10 seconds after my testimony, I sat down and my phone buzzed. And I pull out my phone and I looked at it, and it was a buddy of mine, and he said, "You're not going to believe what's out on Twitter." And I looked at it, and he had a screenshot of a tweet that the Democratic Party of the state of Arkansas had sent out, and it said, "Dr. Greg Bledsoe is a bigot. He's discriminatory. He should be immediately removed as Surgeon General. He's breached his oath of office. He has breached the Hippocratic Oath because he testified on behalf of that bill." And folks, I looked at that tweet and I was absolutely shocked. I was shocked by it. Because I did not realize there was still a Democratic Party in the state of Arkansas. Because we wiped them out. And folks, I'm going to wind up here because I know my time is getting close to the end, but there shouldn't be a Democratic Party in the state of Arkansas. And the reason is that the state party has aligned itself with the national party. And the national party is filled with folks who are Marxists and socialists, who hate our country and want to fundamentally change who we are and what we believe. And we got to stop them. And when people ask me, they say, "Greg, why are you running for office?" I tell them, I'm running for office because politics has become too important to leave to the politicians. And there's a huge group of people in this country that they're not into politics. They don't follow politics. And they just want to work hard and pay their bills and at the end of the day kiss their spouse and play with their kids and be left alone. But that large group of people in this country are realizing that they have to look around and start getting involved in politics because it's become too important and it's encroaching on every aspect of their life. And I'll close with this story. When I was 10 years old, people ask me, they say, "Why are you running?" And I tell them, when I was 10 years old, my dad, I saw something that I had never seen before and I never forgot. But we used to go to craft fairs when I was a kid, and we went to a craft show here in Northwest Arkansas that was down by a river. And this river usually was really shallow and didn't have much current or much size to it. But the week before there'd been a lot of rain and the current was up. And there was this craft show there, and my family went, and we went walking down these aisles of crafts. And I can remember at some point in the morning, my mom and younger brother and sister went one direction. And then my dad and I went another direction. And after a few minutes, we looked up and we saw there was a crowd gathering on the edge of this river. And Dad and I got curious, and so we thought, let's check this out. So we went walking over to the edge of this river, and there were probably 20 or 30 adults standing there. And as I walked up, I'm 10 years old, and as I walked up to the edge of this river, I can remember feeling the tension in this crowd and hearing these people say, "Someone's got to do something. It's not going to make it much longer. Someone's got to do something. What are we going to do?" And I looked out where they were pointing. In the middle of the current, in the deepest part of the river, there was one of those little Scotty dogs. And the Scotty dog apparently had been tied up and gotten loose from his leash and gotten to the edge of the water and been swept out by the current. And it was in the middle of the river, turned upstream, paddling for all his worth. But he would paddle, and then the current would push him under, and he'd pop up about 10 feet down, further downstream. And you could tell this dog was not going to last much longer. And I'm 10 years old, and I love dogs, and I'm starting to freak out. And I'm thinking, someone needs to help this poor little thing. We're going to watch this dog drown. And at the height of all this, when I'm watching this, and all these people are saying, somebody's got to do something, I remember my dad turning to me and saying, "Son, hold my keys." And when I turned to my dad, he was unloading his pockets, and he put in my hands his wallet and his car keys and his wristwatch. And there's 30 people on the riverbank, and my dad steps into the water, wades out to this little dog, grabs it by the scruff of the neck, and kind of, weaves his way back to the current, back to the riverbank. And of course, he gets back to the riverbank, and the crowd goes, "Yay!" And about that time, the owners finally come showing up. They're like, "Fifi, where have you been?" It's like, come on, you're about time. But I'm 10 years old, and I'm watching this, and I'm thinking to myself, my dad's a hero. My dad's a hero. And my dad's done much bigger things than rescue a dog from the river. But that's something I never forgot. And as I was thinking about running for office, the first time I've ever done anything like this, that story came back to me. As I go around the state of Arkansas, when people ask me, they say, "Why would you as a physician, a first-time candidate, decide to run for office? Why would you do this to yourself?" I tell them, it's time to get in the water. The days of being safe on the riverbank are over for all of us. We need good men and women who love this country to step off the safety of the riverbank and into the water, or we're not going to have a country left. We're not going to have a country left. And so for me and my family, after a lot of prayer and talking, we decided that the best thing for us to do was to run for office. But for those of you who don't feel called to that, what I say is find candidates that you can support and get behind them. It's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. And if it's not me, then find someone else, because we've got to get in the water and start fighting for this country. But if you believe like we do and you want to support us, go to bledsoeforarkansas.org. That's our website. We've got some literature we'll leave on the back tables. But we really appreciate you guys, and very sincerely, more than even winning your vote today, I want to say thank you. Because it's folks like you guys that come out on a night like tonight that are the people who are going to help start turning this around. So thanks very much. Appreciate the opportunity to come and speak. Thanks, guys.
Can you tell us what you're running for?
Lieutenant Governor. Yeah, we're running for the same thing, so.
Thank you, Greg. And let me say there are 6 Republicans running for Lieutenant Governor. If that isn't enough, there's a Libertarian, and there's also a Democrat. Believe it or not, someone stepped forward as a Democrat. So I'm Doyle Webb. Most of you know me as being chairman of the State Republican Party for 12 years. I've been here several times. I love this part of the state. I love the fact that we're in Arkansas and not in Oklahoma, okay? But the thing you don't know about me is that I practiced law for 25 years. I went back to my hometown of Benton in Saline County, opened an office, started doing deeds. I never wanted to do divorces, but did a lot of divorces. Child custody, adoptions were the greatest thing. Owned residential and commercial real property. Yes, I've changed the locks on the doors. Yes, I've replaced toilet seats because I found that a plumber made more than an attorney. And so you do that kind of thing. While I was, also my family owned a family flower shop. So I can make a bow. I can make a $1,000 arrangement if you need it. I am multi-talented in those kind of things. And Christy knows these things, okay? The thing I want to go on and tell you about is that during the time I was practicing law, our town, our community was filled with corruption and the good old boy system. And I felt called into public service. At the age of 30, I ran for the quorum court. My wife and I got married that year. We came back from our honeymoon and we started going door to door. And I won that race, and I was the first Republican elected in my county since 1874. And when I got elected, all the Democrats said, Doyle, we don't care that you're a 5th generation Saline Countyan. We'll never vote for anything that you propose because you are a blankety blank Republican. So in the organizational meeting, my first ordinance was that every meeting would begin with a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, you know what? They passed it. And I used to be 6'4", but they beat me down. But I became the chairman of the budget committee. We actually lowered property taxes in my home county, which was a thing that was unusual to have done. We have not elected a Democrat in over 10 years in Saline County. And that used to be the strongest union county in the state. From there, I was elected to the state senate. I was one of 7 Republicans in the state senate of 35. And that was a remarkable time in that we 7 passed the first ban on partial birth abortion that had ever been passed in Arkansas, with 7 Republicans. That's when prayer and hard work pays off, because they had not been able to get a pro-life bill through at that time. During the time in the Senate, I was called to be chief of staff for Lieutenant Governor Rockefeller, and my wife said, Doyle, you can't tell a Rockefeller no. So I served with him for 5 years in the Lieutenant Governor's office, chief of staff, during his illness and during his death. I ran the office during the time he was in treatment for bone marrow cancer, and then I closed the office after he died and at the end of his term. Went back to Benton, started practicing law, and lo and behold, this guy by the name of Barack Hussein Obama got elected President of the United States. And you may not know, but our party at one time was bankrupt. We were bankrupt financially, and we were bankrupt spiritually, because the Democrats had had an overwhelming win. Only John Bozeman was in Congress. We had no other federal delegation. We had no statewide offices. We had 8 Republican senators in the Senate. We had 25 Republican House members of 100 in the House, and we only had 11% of the elected partisan officials in Arkansas were Republican. We were bankrupt. And my wife turned to me and said, "Doyle, what are you going to do?" Well, I guess I'm running for chairman of the Republican Party. You know, no little boy in Benton County or in Saline County lays in bed at night dreaming of being chairman of the Republican Party. And let me say this, no little girl lays in bed dreaming of those things either. So I ran, we worked hard, we developed a plan, we recruited candidates, we targeted races, we raised money, and now we're the majority party in Arkansas. We're the most pro-life state in the union. We've just had the largest tax reduction in our state's history, and that's what Republicans do when they're in office. Yeah, give us a round of applause, okay? We built a headquarters, if you've not been there, a $2.3 million headquarters dedicated to debt-free. That's the way Republicans do things. One thing I want to talk to you about, if you don't have a copy of our platform, you should have a copy. I believe in every principle. I believe in every plank. Matter of fact, I appointed the 5 committees that through the years have written this document. I had it printed so that the average member of the party could see what we stand for and what our goals are in this state. And I'm running for lieutenant governor because I want to keep pushing those principles and those planks. You know, I want to be a full-time lieutenant governor. I'm willing to be a full-time lieutenant governor and receive part-time pay and work full-time and not have outside employment. Because in these times with what's going on in Washington, D.C., I cannot be a part-time patriot, nor can I be a part-time lieutenant governor. I want to be there with a new Republican governor to share my knowledge and my experience in cabinet meetings, in meetings with other executive members, to have an open door with the coffee pot on, so that when people are wandering the halls, wondering who in the world can help me, they can stop in the lieutenant governor's office, and I'll be willing to do that. I did that full-time as chief of staff for Wynn Rockefeller. And let me tell you one other thing and one other commitment that I make to you. I will never use the assets of that office to run for another office. I hate to call her out, but our Attorney General, Leslie Rutledge, has spent close to $5 million using her image and her name in her race for governor. That is wrong. That is 11 times the amount that the last Democrat in that office spent. She has spent 11 times what the Democrats spent at that time. I will never do that. We cannot become what we sought to replace. If we become Democrat lights, why have we sacrificed all these years to become the majority party in Arkansas? There must be a difference between being a Republican and being a Democrat, and it starts with being conservative in everything we see and do. So you have my promise and my word on that. Now let's talk about being lieutenant governor. Lieutenant governor has 2 constitutional duties. One is to preside over the Senate. I've done that as a former state senator. That means keeping order, keeping things moving, assigning bills to the proper committee. I understand that. You don't use Robert's Rules of Order in legislative bodies. You use what's called Mason's Rules of Order. And you've got to understand what that is and how it works. The other responsibility of the lieutenant governor is to be prepared to be governor in the event that the governor cannot serve. The governor resigns, the governor takes another job, something like that. Well, let me tell you, I worked for Wynn Rockefeller for 1,500 days. I prepared him each day for who would walk in the door to see him, for anything that would come before him in the Senate, so that he would be prepared on how to respond. That's what you have to know. You have to be ready. But if that isn't enough, on 2 occasions in which our state has faced a crisis, the lieutenant governor at that time called on me for my legal advice. Let me give you the first instance. Lieutenant Governor Huckabee was preparing to become governor because Governor Jim Guy Tucker had resigned. We were gathered in the House chamber waiting to hear Governor Huckabee speak when we get word that Governor Jim Guy Tucker has left the Capitol with his state police detail and this is the term that was used, had barricaded himself in the governor's mansion. Governor Huckabee called me and said, Doyle, tell me legally what can we do to get him out of office. Now fast forward, 9/11, Governor Huckabee is out of state. At that time when the governor was out of state, the lieutenant governor was governor. Lieutenant Governor Rockefeller calls me, I was in the state senate at the time, he says, Doyle, terrorists have attacked the Twin Towers. Our country is going to be at war. What authority do I have as the acting governor to take care of the people of Arkansas? I gave him the information that I knew. But the 2 times that our state has been in a crisis, the acting governor, the lieutenant governor, called on me for my advice. And that's not a brag, that's just a fact that you need to know. You never know when that occasion will occur. And with a new governor, you need someone in the office of lieutenant governor that knows the ropes. Now let me tell you that there's 3 things that I believe strongly in: life, liberty, and lower taxes. Life begins at conception. It's precious. We must work to preserve it, fight to preserve it. Liberty, many of our liberties have been lost. We must fight to regain those liberties and fight to protect the ones that we have not lost to an ever-encroaching federal government. And lower taxes, we must eliminate the personal income tax in Arkansas. We must free ourselves from that burden so that we can be competitive with our surrounding states. If it doesn't if it doesn't pass those 3 tests, I don't support it. I don't believe in it. I'm Doyle Webb, webforarkansas.com. My cell phone, if you wish to write it down, is 501. I'll give you a minute to get it. It's going to be easy. 501-690-9322. 9322 spells Webb. Okay? Feel free if you have a question, a concern, if you have a need. I will do my best to answer it. I love y'all. I appreciate it. I appreciate all your hard work. We cannot give up the fight. We cannot go backwards. We have to maintain ourselves as a majority Republican Party in Arkansas. Thank you. You want to do questions?
Yes. So if everyone will All three of you will come back up. Yeah, just
Yes,
stay
ma'am.
here. Yes.
And look, Greg and I like each other. Don't think that just because we're in the
We're
same.
gonna start
grade-
carpooling to these
That's
things. It'll
right.
be a lot easier.
That's right. If I was that tall, I'd be somebody, okay?
Okay, if you will address your question to the candidate that you would like to hear from. So, do we have any questions?
Now's your time to grab us.
Yes, yes. We need some good questions. You all are intelligent, well-informed, you know what's going on in the world. So let's ask some good questions here.
Ask me something about Jonathan Barnett. If I don't know it, I can make it up, okay? At one time, Jonathan and I were the college Republicans, the two of us.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Long enough. How long ago was that? That was probably about 40 years.
Okay, we have a question over here.
Yeah, so why is there so many people running for lieutenant governor this cycle? It's a mystery to me.
Sure, I mean, I will hand this off to Doyle, get his impression. I'm not really sure. I can just kind of tell you what my thought process was, is that I'm a physician, and so Lieutenant Governor was an opportunity for me to serve the state and continue to practice a little bit, keep my toe in the water. But also Lieutenant Governor is a great platform and microphone to help advocate for issues that you believe strongly in. And I believe Sarah Huckabee Sanders is going to be our next governor, and she'll be a great governor. But she's going to need someone in that position that's not constantly running for governor and undermining her, and is also someone that's not going to create a distraction and is going to take our eyes off of the big goals that she has and the needs of Arkansas, and start doing their own thing. So, I'm interested in getting in that position and supporting her, but also advocating on behalf of the people of Arkansas, and still being able to take care of my patients from time to time when that opportunity comes up. So that was kind of my thought process, but I'll let Doyle give his answer.
Yeah, I would not disagree with that, but I would add, politics is filled with opportunists. And many people believe that Sarah Huckabee Sanders will not serve out her full 8 years as governor, and that she will go on to run for something else or be appointed to something else, which will leave a vacancy and will be an easy way for someone to become governor, okay? And I believe that there are people in this race that see that. I'm like Greg. My goal is to be lieutenant governor. I've served in the office. I love Wynn Rockefeller, and I think I can fill it in a way that no one else can fill it. If I'm called on to do that, I'll do it, and then I'll go back to Benton and plant flowers or something like that. So that's kind of my view, okay?
Any other questions?
Okay, we wanted,
Go ahead, Kathy.
no, we want to know, does the lieutenant governor automatically become governor?
Yes. To fill out the term. Mike Huckabee automatically became governor, and.
If they leave in the middle, is what you're saying?
Right. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be in the middle. It could be, matter of fact, there's been governors that have served for 3 days. Okay?
So I'm originally from Arkansas, but I lived 18 years in Louisiana and met and married her. But anyway, in Louisiana, lieutenant governors, if I remember right, their main platform was economic development. Y'all haven't mentioned any of that. So I don't know if that's a role that Arkansas lieutenant governor plays into or not.
That can be, my view would be, certainly, let's back up. Wynn Rockefeller was natural in that. When you have the name of Rockefeller, you can do economic development. I think many times you have to work in concert with the governor, what the governor needs for you to do. And it might be that, it might be something else, but you preside over the Senate and you become governor in the event the governor cannot serve. The rest of it is something that you can write your own script for. I would prefer to work with the governor because the governor will be the leader, and I think we should be working cross each other, okay? We should be working together.
No, I totally agree, and it is a big part of being lieutenant governor is being an advocate for the state, and a big part of that is economic development. So my background is in healthcare, but I just got my MBA from MIT because I've been working with so many startup companies and other groups that were trying to build things in the state of Arkansas and having problems. And one of the problems they kept telling me about is taxes are too high. And I'm like, well, you got an advocate here because I believe they're too high as well, and we're losing jobs to Tennessee and Texas because companies that are thinking about relocating here aren't coming here because of taxes. So economic development is a big thing for this state. The lieutenant governor can use the bully pulpit of the lieutenant governor position to advocate for lower taxes, for a more efficient, streamlined government, to go outside the state and actually talk to people and sell the state of Arkansas to others to bring them back here for jobs. And then I think a big part of this also is teaching our kids how to be entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is a skill, just like driving a car or playing basketball or playing golf or learning whatever, anything else. Some people are better at it than others, but everyone can learn it. And our kids need to learn those skills and learn them young so that they can build things on their own. That's how they remain independent from all the bureaucracy and craziness that's going on up here, the big companies that are trying to control us. So I appreciate the question.
Let me add a little bit to that. There are only 43 lieutenant governors out of the 50 states. And some of the lieutenant governors are what is called yoked to the governor. They run as a team. Our case is they are not yoked together. I know some states, the lieutenant governor is the director of highways. In some states, the director of parks and tourism. That would really be a state-specific responsibility. And certainly we would work with the new governor to find that out. And I would never want to be at cross purposes with the governor, okay? I would want to be a person that helped build up what we're doing. We don't need division in Arkansas. We need unity in Arkansas.
Would you both speak to education? I don't think I need that. I got my teacher voice on. Okay. Oh, gotcha. Would you just both speak to education and what your thoughts on education in general, and then specifically public education?
Yeah, so speaking of education, the senator it's something he's really passionate about. You know, he always introduces himself as an optometrist by trade, and something that goes back to that is he went to school in Arkansas before going to optometry school, so he's very passionate about the school systems. He has grandkids in Arkansas, but you know, on a federal level, he gets to see a lot of policies, specifically through his position on the agricultural committee, with what our kids are being fed in schools. And what part of that is reduced prices for kids in need. And I know that with him being on the nutrition caucus, that's a big thing. And that's something that I see him working on every summer. He's home in August recess. He's visiting schools across the country, seeing their needs and seeing what they need on that side, and then supporting, you know, most of Arkansas's education is handled at the state level, and so he's very accessible to the state leaders, and he wants to work with them to see what, on a federal side, through funding, whatnot, we can be helpful with.
So, yeah, absolutely. Education is incredibly important. My wife was a public school teacher when I met her. My grandmother taught in the public schools for 40 years. I've got a couple of cousins and aunts that teach in the public schools. So it's a really important thing. But what is concerning to me is that as the feds have moved in and the national government has moved more and more into local education, it's driving good people out of education. Teachers, when I talk to teachers, I've never met a teacher that doesn't like to teach. But I've met a lot of teachers that don't like the teaching profession anymore because of what the feds have done to it. And in addition to that, when you have kids that are locked into schools that are failing, we need to give those kids opportunities to get out of those failing schools. And so I'm a believer in school choice. I think that we should be designing education in this country to meet the needs of children, not to meet the needs of bureaucracies. And there are children that do better at home, being homeschooled. There are kids that do better in private schools. There are kids that do better with special ed sort of situations. And there are kids that do better in public schools. We need to empower families to make good decisions for their kids based on those individual kids' needs, and to support the good teachers that are in the teaching profession who are just barely hanging on because they're getting their heads beaten in every day by the craziness coming out of the federal government. So it's a big, big deal, and we need to make sure that the education quality our kids are getting is excellent, because the kids overseas in places like Japan, India, China, parts of Europe, they're getting good educations. We can't fall behind.
My answer will be fairly short. I believe in school choice. I believe the parents need to be engaged. I think each child should have a voucher that can go to the school that they choose to go to. I don't know what happened to education, public education, but something happened. And I think the best thing we can do for public education is to support charter schools and other facilities where the parents can choose the school that their children will be in. I think that will do more to help public education than we could ever do. So I'm for school choice, vouchers, and let's move forward. That will move Arkansas forward quickly, I believe. Yeah. And it will be a fight to the finish.
All right, we might have time for one more question.
Someone had a question in here. Didn't you?
Well, I was just curious if you, I don't, it's probably a real ignorant question because I don't know these things, but if you're not really wanting to be governor and if she does leave, then what?
Then who becomes governor?
If you have to become governor, if she doesn't finish out her term, but you don't really want to, you said. Does that make sense?
Maybe.
Let's see what they say. Do you understand the question?
That's for me, I guess.
Well, both of you said.
Yeah, I will, if called upon, like anything I've done in my life, if called upon to be governor, I will be the best governor this state has ever had. Okay? Okay? And I will pray about it, and I will seek God's guidance and His Holy Spirit, and I will do the best I can so that Arkansas becomes the shining star that it ought to be. Okay? Okay?
So I don't have a craving for any higher office. I don't have a craving to be a full-time government employee or a full-time politician. But I do feel very strongly that our state needs good representation, and I love this state. And so before I decided to run even for the lieutenant governor job, I spent a lot of time praying about it, and we felt called to run. And the way we make decisions in my family is we pray, we talk to each other, we reason it out, and then we walk through the doors and then we see what happens. And if I'm elected lieutenant governor and the governorship for whatever reason became vacant, then I would assume that the ward had said, this is what you need to do, and I would step into that. My preference, if you want to know my honest preference, is a cabin in the woods, off the grid, with my family, no internet, no cell phone. That's, unfortunately, we're in a situation where I truly believe we're fighting for the soul of our country. And so my preference would be to live in the woods somewhere, but I believe the Lord has us on the battlefield for now, because what we have in this country is precious. I've been to 60 countries, and I can tell you the United States of America is unique, and we need to fight to preserve what we have. It's very important.
The lawyer always has to have the last word, okay? Let me just say this. If I became governor, you just think that Trump is tough, okay? You just think that he tells you the way it is, okay? I have his picture on my push card. I brought him to Arkansas when I was state chairman and got criticism from the national Republicans, okay? So watch out if I become governor, okay?
Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause, please.
I just want to also announce that we do have bumper stickers and yard signs as well in the back. Feel free to get my contact information. I'd love to get as many people involved as possible. We have a great team going, or if you know of anyone in your communities, the Young Republicans, we're happy to have some volunteers, and please feel free to have them reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you very much. Yes, Kathy?
This isn't really a question because I don't know who can answer it. I'm very passionate about us straightening up DHS. You know, it's a shame that these kids in foster care are struggling like they are. It's a shame, and I don't know the answer. The other thing is special need kids and adults, their caregivers are not getting paid enough, and there are a shortage of caregivers because they can find better jobs. It's not because they don't want to work there, it's just that they can't afford to. And so I'm just saying that because I just don't know the answer, and I wish there was something, you know, that could be done.
Good.
Anybody have a response?
There was a committee meeting today, and I wasn't able
Here,
to make
wait,
it.
wait.
Sorry.
Could you go?
So the Aging Children Youth Committee actually had a subcommittee meeting today. I wasn't able to make it. I'm going to be watching it tonight. I got to watch about 15 minutes of it live today. Afterward, I'll get with you and anybody else and show you how to, if you don't know, how to watch it online, because that's one of the things that they're addressing. And I want to get some input
Talking
on
about DHS or?
well, I'm talking about the caregiver issue.
Caregivers.
And of course, with the PASS program and all, the issue of getting caregivers for that. And they're looking at a new program. And I want to get some people's feedback on that. I want to watch the rest of it tonight. But it's looking at basically licensing. Some other states are doing that, where we have like our trades, our career tech in high school, having a path to license workers and, you know, push kids toward this field and make it more, so to speak, give it more weight if it's licensed and that kind of thing. What does concern me anytime we start licensing things is then we start growing more government, and the next thing you know, every 2 years they have to come back and they have to get certified again and get certified again, and it's more costly. So let's, at that issue right there, they did discuss it today, so afterward I'd be happy to show you. Anybody else that wants to see that tonight? I think it was a very good meeting, what I did see, yes.
Okay, so, I'm the founder and the previous owner of the Right Solutions, the largest travel nursing company in America that's privately owned. And what they have done is mandated through Medicare that all healthcare professionals be vaccinated. And that has decreased the healthcare professionals. And then the other thing that the state of Arkansas does, I'm also a naturopathic doctor. I'm a RN with an MBA and a BSc MBA, and then a functional medicine degree. And so they also, the state of Arkansas does not recognize functional doctors. And every other state, I mean, a lot of states do recognize functional doctors, not every state, but we're in conflict with a lot of states that do. And there are maps available to pull up where they're licensed, and you might ought to look at all that, because I did talk to the Arkansas men that were here for the healthcare committee, and that was my platform, is that we need to repeal the mandate from Medicare and Medicaid, and we need to, for the vaccination of all healthcare professionals, and we also ought to look at that functional medicine. I personally bought the 8 acres right across the street from here, which is in Oklahoma, because in Oklahoma I can function as a doctor. I can't in Arkansas, but I can walk across the street and function that way.
Yeah, that's one of the things that concerns me, and so I'm welcome to visit with anybody afterward, is that, I know where I have to go, is I dealt with a constituent last week, an acupuncturist. Can't get licensed in Arkansas because we've made it so difficult. We've added some more red tape. And it's a disservice to our people. It's a disservice to him. And that's what I'm concerned about with this other program. It may be great, but I want to see, is it going to have the effect of making it more difficult for people to enter the field and more costly? And so, that's something that Arkansas needs to look at across the board, because we had the Red Tape Reduction Act. Best I can tell, it grew. We didn't reduce anything, and I'm dealing with constituents on a daily basis.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That was an excellent question, Kathy. Thank you, Gayla and Diana, for your input on that. Let me get up here where my notes are. Oops, took it down. I think we're at the point where we go to our business meeting. Yeah. So if you'll just hang for a couple of minutes with us, it's not going to be long, and then you can go back and eat and snooze and whatever. Okay. The first order of business is the reading. Well, we're not going to read the minutes. I just need someone to. Some of us have read the minutes. So those of us who have read the minutes, if you will make a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Okay, Helen, thank you. A second?
Second.
All right, Kathy. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? Same sign. Okay. The next one, we're going to have a report from our treasurer. So, Kathy, if you'll come up.
Which Kathy would like to?
The Kathy with an I. Yes, that would be good. Come over here so we can catch you.
We have two accounts, our PAC account, which is our political action. The balance is $1,196.50. We also have an administrative account. We've had quite a bit of activity on that this month, but our balance is $792.96 in the administrative account. Is that all you need?
Yes. We need more. Well, we'll get to that in just a moment. All right, Mitty, if you'll come up and give us a legislative update. Appreciate that.
Okay, so just really quick, I talked to Delia today, and she's in Little Rock doing some things with committee, but she wants us to be involved in our school boards. She said to get involved with these school board elections we have coming up. May the 24th is the vote day. So on this paper that I'm having her pass out, there's a couple of different things. At the bottom of it, I've got a list of who's running and what zones they're running in. Do your research and look at these people and make sure that we put the right people in for our school boards, because our schools are very, very important. And the things that are going on right now need to be addressed.
Can I add something to it?
Yes, ma'am.
May the 10th, the chamber is having a forum for all those candidates. including
Okay,
the school board.
May the 10th, the chamber's having a forum for all of the school board candidates.
Yeah.
It's all candidates ready.
For all the candidates, okay, so it's all the candidates running? Okay, so it's May the 10th with the chamber. Where is that? Where they
Oh,
have
they're
it?
doing it at the library, right?
Is it the library or the
At the library, at the Siloam-Springs Library. Okay, so on that sheet also, there is, it just says, has the Benton County election calendar. That email, or the address at the top, go to that website. Delia sent that to me. She said that that is a place to go. You can get all the early voting sites, the absentee ballot. Check on your registration, if you're registered or not. If you've not voted in the last general election, is that right? Then you're not registered. Anyway, you can also get election results too. And the other thing is, Delia's going to be at the Dogwood Festival Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. She has a booth. She would love for some of us to come and volunteer and be there to help register people to vote, and also just be there to kind of visit with her and answer questions, have some questions answered, those kind of things. So you can be there and help with that.
She had mentioned that she won't be there Friday, I don't think.
Okay.
And so,
Okay.
if anybody wants to come and.
Are you going to be there?
I'm gonna go Friday.
Okay. If you want to go visit with Christy on Friday.
There's a sign-up sheet.
Okay, so there's a sign-up sheet in the back? Okay, great, okay. I think that's it. Just, she was mainly wanting you to look at your school board elections, like I said, I gave you a list of that. And also on that, I gave you a list of where you can vote and when you can vote, so those are the last 2 pages, because in Arkansas, you can vote anywhere, so just make sure that you get there, okay?
Yes, anywhere in the county. We have vote centers now, and those are listed also on the websites. Yeah. Thank you very much. That was very informative, and I appreciate the handouts a lot. All right. I think that's all. The last thing is that we desperately need fundraising. We really need to raise some funds to support the candidates, so, and to kind of bolster up our administrative account. So if anybody has ideas, I know nobody wants to be the chair of a fundraising committee, I know. But if you have ideas of what we might do, or what someone might do if they were the chair, and we'll have a ghost chair, and we'll speak to that chair, and we'll tell them what we need to do, okay? So, we might sell T-shirts, you know, with Siloam-Springs Republican Women and our logo on it, the elephant with the eyelashes. Yeah, so, all right, so, yes, Ann.
Could I please have the executive board and the speakers right when we dismiss up by the flag, and I'll get our picture for the paper.
Thank you, Ann. You're doing a great job. We appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else? Have I forgotten anything? Any old or new business? I don't think we have any. Okay. So the meeting's adjourned, and we want all the picture people up here, please.